so here I am, I guess, ready to actually start Continental Divide. I looked at the original map, and it looks to me like these red lines here on this map were also the Continental Divide in the original map. They just got left off on this one. Now, from what I can see of comments, etc., it's actually a pretty ugly game in terms of what you have to do to figure out what you're going to do. And I'm not someone who likes to do a lot of counting, and this game is very heavy on that. Just to say, you know, I'm going to try to optimize my route, right? So maybe I want to go up to Milwaukee as my first move and get $10 extra income. But there are only 8 turns in the game. And I have to do straight line. Well, going to Milwaukee, then what's next? I mean, shooting here, I think I can do a straight line through Minneapolis and Green Bay. But you can kind of see where, with a limited number of turns, it's going to be tough to reach there. And then you also have to calculate out how much money does the company actually need. So if I was going straight, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 9 times 4 is 36. And 2 8s puts me to like $52 I gotta have. So I kind of want to make sure I have at least that much cash in terms of shares, but I probably need more than that because I have to figure out how much I'm going to make to run the whole way across the country. There's no real guarantee that I'll make anything not off the certificates. If somebody wants to demolish my company, of course, they may have to buy multiple shares to do that. But if somebody wants to demolish my company, they can just buy the shares. And, you know, unless they're at like the high end of the schedule, and we only have $40 to begin with, it's going to be really, really tough to make it across. We're going to test some things out. I'm not going to be too careful about the counting side of the game. I just don't really give a shit enough about that. I'm more interested in kind of the big picture, but, you know, I'm kind of afraid that you have to do a lot of optimization to play this at all well. You know, your income isn't necessarily the big thing, but your income in relation to what you spend to get it seems pretty big. So, for example, getting to Dallas, that's not easy, right? I could shoot right up to Shreveport and then run through Dallas, but then, you know, I'm not going to get the bonus of Houston, which is almost as good. Then I just have to shoot across here with low-income spaces. I don't know, maybe. You know? I'm going to play it by gut, see what happens. It's probably not going to be too informative because I think the only way to play this really effectively is to really focus on which routes are optimal. There are apparently calculators out to do that. I don't want to do that. It's not why I play a board game, not to bring some kind of app into play. All the companies are exactly the same. They're just colors that you can start from somewhere. I think paying a lot sounds like a good idea. First player is going to buy the Blue and Southern, and I'm going to set the initial price way up there so that each share is worth a lot at $40 and nobody can take it over easily. 2 people can work on it, but how many shares do I want to release to begin with? Well, I don't know. Where am I going to start? You know, where's the best money? Where the money at? Not that money's the victory condition. Dallas looks interesting. Kansas City's a more expensive way to get there. If I could get St. Louis down to Kansas City, that doesn't look too bad. The Milwaukee, Minneapolis doesn't look too bad. How about I don't know. How much money do I need? 32, 40, 52. And then things get kind of hard for a while. 52. Is there any wealth anywhere else? These are expensive spaces to enter into. I think I'm going to start in Chicago. That just looks good. So we'll put a cube there. How many shares? Well, we said 52 to get out here. That's more or less my money. Let's guess. Getting me most of the way out in here. Probably is going to be another big chunk of money. That's second share. Third share to get me out west. Now I get money when I make that. Fourth share. Sure. I will release 5 shares. That'll give me a little extra capital on this thing. I'll put all this cash. Whoops. Gotta be careful. I'll put all this cash here. We'll take the company over near us since we're the ones running it. For now. And I get to lay some track. Awesome. All right. Let's see where we get. Okay. Got to be kind of careful here because we got to add 2 things together. So this is 4, 12, 20, 24 bucks to get up there. So that's what I'm going to spend. Buck back in my treasury. We'll see how this works. And now we're adding 2, 12, 14, 16 to our income. Now we've just made this thing unpurchasable at this point because now it costs 56 bucks to buy a share of it. We have some operating money. We're going to be making 16 bucks, which out of 5 shares, we're going to get, what, 4 bucks of it, which isn't going to really help us much. But the rest of it's going to go into the company and help keep fueling it. We'll see what this all means. And of course, I took the blue and southern and went north with it right away. Our second player is going to take the red and northern and go south. I'm going to play a little differently. First of all, I'm going to start here in Memphis. This doesn't look like a bad run. I can make a fair amount of distance. I got to be careful because like Pueblo is really expensive, so I don't want to hit there. But I'm just going to try to make distance off this, but not as much as you might think. Because I want to start kind of low. So what I'm going to do is here, start here in Memphis. Now I could have just run through here. No, only what, 1 company per? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think it may be 1 company per starting location. Yeah. No, I don't see a restriction on that. Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's a restriction, so I could have actually followed the same damn route that he's doing if I wanted to. And if I thought somebody was careful counting and everything and optimized everything, I might just do that. Luckily, I know I'm not. What I wanted to do here was I want to release a lot of shares. Hey, the more shares you have of a company that makes it across, you win, right? San Francisco's worth a lot of points. I may have to jerk around a little bit to it, but this seems to get me on a good line towards San Francisco for now, at least. Even if things are kind of expensive. Now I got to be careful because the route in the north starts out pretty cheap, but it gets stupid in some places. There's got to be a decent southern route. There certainly is right along here. But we want to go through the center, and we'll see what we can do from it. So what I'm going to do is I have 40 bucks. I could spend 20 of that 40 bucks to buy a share. And that means somebody else could buy 2 shares and take it over. Assuming I didn't build any track, right? Yeah, probably not a big deal. So I'm actually going to spend less because I'm going to be adding to my stock value. I'm going to only spend 15 on the initial share. Looking at I want the most possible shares that I can own of this. I'm going to put all 10 shares there. I forgot. I got to put 5 of these. Out of the game because the blue and southern only released 5 shares. So I'm releasing all 10 shares. Of course, that gets me less value. Always a problem, right? And now here, what am I running? Well, yeah, this isn't terribly effective. Oh well. 20, 28. I don't have this kind of money. Well, I don't want to do that. Maybe I want to start somewhere else with this same strategy. We got to make sure we get our valuation above 20. And now I have to add, do I want to mirror? Do I want to do something else? Is this a better run? 4, 8, 16, 20. I've only got 15 bucks in the company. Can't go that way. Jeez. Well, let's rethink. Maybe we want to start the price a little different. I think I'm going to put it up here instead. And I'm going to change my valuation. 4, 8, 16, 20, 24. Sounds like a more reasonable price. I owe like 8 more bucks to the company. Hey, I forgot to put my money in ahead. So I get $1 back, right? And they get 24 in the company money, which is not the best of places. Now, obviously, this is designed to put bills under instead of using chips, but I've gotten so used to using chips, it's just easier for me. And now my buys, we're going there 4, 8, 16, 20, 24 out to here. I'd love to get to Omaha. Do I want to go to 32? Yeah. Let's not allow somebody else to do it. 32, so 24, that's $8 more. Do we want all these shares? I don't know. Let's think about how many shares we really need of this then. So if 32 is going to get us to here, get about there. That's 2, 3, 4. Let's make it 6 shares instead of 10. Let's make it 7 shares. Which means I discard 3 of these. And I don't remember what we did. So now we're at 32. 4, 8, 16, 24. 32 gets me to Omaha. And we'll count back from there. 8, 10, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and we just shot the value that people have to put into it outside of anybody's price range again. Oh well. You can always start a company with a small amount of initial capital. May not be worth much, but it may also generate some revenue for us or something. I don't know. Think about player 3 now. The problem I'm running into at this point is it feels like the first 3 players have done things that look like they're filling out some of the better routes in the game. If I'm willing to delay a turn, there's no question I can get to a good route. And I mean, I could come running down here to St. Louis or whatever, but, and I think that may be what I end up doing. That doesn't look too bad. But the problem is, I kind of don't want to just match their routes. And especially since they made some calculation and figured out, you know, sort of an optimal number of shares to release prices and all that kind of stuff for that new route. Now, I could just buy into one of their routes, conceivably. The cheapest is 28.41 for black, which means no, I can't. I don't have the cash. I need to start my own railroad. I can't just buy a share of somebody else's stuff. And honestly, that's something that players have been keeping in mind is we don't want an investor. It seems kind of the opposite of your normal winsome feel, but my share that I start is worth more to me. I'm able to make money, the company make money off of its shares if I can generate a good revenue and then take some of that into the company and then keep expanding. So yeah, for player 3, we ran down this way. That looks like a pretty decent route. You know, conceivably, yeah, I could just pay a little bit different. And it's not like there's only one decent route. There's a nice flat route of 4s coming through here, a couple of them. Of course, it's not getting a lot of revenue. And there's nothing that prevents me from running the route that the other player is taking. So I could run along this yellow route and head up then to Sioux Fall and run for a little less than red is, right? This player had something of a significant advantage, which was they could start their company and didn't have to make sure there was $40 to cover it, to make sure somebody else, you know, doesn't pay it. So they started it at only 36 and 35, I'm sorry, and didn't build out very much, getting to the same place yellow got to, but quicker. Now, obviously with less income, but everybody's got their company. Nobody's got a hoard of money left over yet. Let's see what the incomes aren't going to be very high here. Money's going to be real tight. So now we're looking at the dividends for each company as we go through it. Well, let's figure out our dividends for blue. Blue, these counters are kind of hard to see. The blue, the purple, the black, they're very alike. My lighting's not fantastic, but blue was at $16, and I thought that was kind of clever because that means I get $4 out of that 16 for my pocket. Always want to collect your own income, yeah? Well, money is not the victory condition here. So 12 more bucks ends up here. And we'll see how that all works out. Red has 24 bucks, but with 7 shares. 7 goes into 24 4 times. So that drops it down to 20. And the company gets the rest of that capital. I think they're here. 13 bucks, 6 shares. So I get 3 of that 13, which means the company pulls 10 in. Not sure where you want the money, right? Yeah, I mean, I can buy more shares, and shares can be victory points, right? Yellow is making 16 bucks with 7 shares. That means 3 bucks and 13 for the company. Feels weird, it really does. Purple. Purple's at 13 bucks with the 6 shares. That's 3 bucks and 10 for the company. And finally, the salmon is making 4 bucks divided 6 ways. So I get a big buck, and 3 bucks goes to the company. Now the reason this makes some sense though, and why the pink did what they did, is I don't have to put as big an initial cash outlay, but I'm not getting as much back, and I'm not getting it in my pocket. So I think that's probably not a great strategy. We'll see. Now, well, if pink doesn't go first, what does it mean? I don't think anybody has 35 bucks, so nobody's, or 40 bucks. Nobody's going to buy a share of it. I'm not really in competition for space anywhere, so I'm going to keep that 6. That puts us on the next one, which is the 5 player. Well, what does he feel? Well, again, nobody's going to buy a share of my company. Again, I might as well keep my positioning with a 5. There's no one else. There's one other person down with me, and there's no real rush. So let's keep that advantage of seeing what other people do. Let them do calculations for me or whatever. And the advantage for being able to pick first next time. And I think that's going to pretty much go down the line. I don't think anybody, is going to give up. It doesn't feel like there's anywhere where there's a real competition. Now, if the 6th player could have run in, and they're in the most tightly contested area anyway, could have run in where, say, 2 other people went and just run down here and said, but there's still 3 people allowed to be in there. So, unless 4 companies were running in that area, I don't see much advantage to it. And I'm not sure that there's too much advantage to starting companies. There's only 2 left with almost no money. We'll see. That allows you to generate cash. So it might be of worth. That might be the one advantage to going early. I have 10 bucks. I could buy a share of something for 10 bucks. And I'm getting kind of to the point where, if everybody else goes, I won't get to do that. What could I do with 10 bucks? Well, I could move like 2 spaces. I would get a buck profit. Probably the company would get a buck profit. That doesn't sound terribly valuable. If I cut out of here, my 10 bucks could get me these 2 spaces. That would make me, of course, people would buy up shares of this shit because it makes money, right? That would make me 4 bucks. I would get a buck. The company would get 3 bucks. It would then have 5 to make the next space. Of course, I could go along this route, which red is using. That's maybe even more efficient. I don't know. Let me roll a die, because I'm thinking now. My roll result was he decided to stand. He also, with 15 bucks, decided to stand. This guy figures I got a chance either way with my 12 bucks to make it. In fact, this guy stood in part because well, there's somebody with only $4. If he's going to start a company with $4, fine. You know, whatever. It's not going to have much influence on the game. So that's actually one of the factors that's coming in here is kind of the, you know, how much value will him starting a company with $4 mean? That $15, well, if I'm not allowed to do it, at least I have $15. I can invest that into my own company more quickly than anyone else can, presumably. You know, although Red has good income, so that might actually be the bigger turnaround. Of course, that big income means Reds are hard to buy. Right? Okay, we move the chew forward. Turn order has stayed exactly the same, and I've got a lot of angst right now, so I'm gonna wander away for a bit. Even with only $4, I feel like I should be opening up one of those new rails. Yeah, it may not do much for me, but at least it'll be an income flow that'll very quickly make up this $4. So if I look, if I were to start here, for example, that $4 will get me one space. I'll be making $2 a turn, but other people might buy shares of it as well, and make money too. And here's the most important thing: maybe this $4 probably isn't going to mean much to me right away, because it's going to take me a while to make income that's sufficient. But other people might be able to leverage a company that can make more money. So by stripping an option away, I think it sounds kind of cool. Unfortunately, $4 doesn't let me start a share. It's got to be at least $10. Okay, well that's simple enough. $24 of company money, I add 18 to the income, and well, that's about all I can do as I keep boosting this. This is going to make some pretty good money though. It's going to make $34 a share. There are only 5 shares out, so I'm going to get $7, and the company's going to get the rest of that, which will give them enough money to keep pushing on. We're in a bit of danger right now, down to only 3 tokens until we cross this line, but that shouldn't be too big a problem. Similar reasons, though, to what I described for the first player. The second player is putting his $12 into the Brown Valley. He's going to start it here. This makes good money. It'll get him $12 for the company. How many shares do I want to divide? Do I want to make the most cash off my $12, or do I want to put out a lot of shares so that, you know, eventually it might actually become fairly potent? And that's a tough call. With only a few shares, there's no way it's going to make it across the board. With a lot of shares, it might be cool. And I've grabbed the first share, you know? So it's like, well, the next share might be a decent investment of cash. However, I get less money. What I'm looking at is it making $12. If there are 3 shares out, I get $4 on that first. If there's 4 shares out, I get $4. If there's 5 shares, no. If there's 4 shares out, I get $3. If there's 5 shares out, I get $3. That might make sense to put the 5 shares out, just because I'm getting a reasonable return still, and it might be kind of appealing to some people. I'm not sure. The other side of it is I can get a couple extra bucks early on, but I think in the long run I'll get more money if I put more shares out. I think in kind of a dilemma here, or my second company for that player, which is I can blast through this stuff, but it's expensive and I don't want to go through it. I'd love to go through this. I could go 12, 20. I have the cash on hand to do that, except I can't do that. It has to be in a straight line coming out from whatever I build. I don't have a lot of extra pieces to get me across the line. I don't want to hurt the company. It's my major investment. So I'm only going to spend $4 to drop this into play, which increases the value by 3. I would love to be able to grow quicker. It's hard to see how you're going to get very far, you know, with the way there's not many turns to the game, but it's what we got. Okay, third player has 15 bucks. I could invest in the Great Green, but you know, honestly, I can't come out of here because there's 3 in there. Thus, I can't go this way. I can't go this way, which is good money. There's a lot of directions I just can't go in. That would be interesting. And I'm having a hard time finding. I could run along the red line. That I could do. That would make me $6 because I only have 15 bucks to invest. $6, my 15 bucks, I could put it in a place where I'm getting a couple bucks a turn at most, but I'm not going to get the kind of payoff that he was able to with his brown, which is, you know, that's 12 divided by 5. He's going to be making 3 a turn if left alone. In a few turns, that's going to make up ground. Do I want to buy a brown? Because it makes money. And I could be the equal to majority holder in brown and gather in on that. That's possible. Another option is I want to hold my pile of money and see if I can gather up enough to ever invest in one of these real companies, which I'm not sure is going to be possible, to tell you the truth. There isn't a lot of time. There isn't a lot of income here. Of course, you know, they begin to expand and those first shares become valuable. But this money isn't making me money right now. Does that matter? Because it could be, you know, it's an opportunity cost if I spend it. I was going to buy the green, but I couldn't find a good outlet for it. But what if I spend 12 bucks on the brown? What can I do for brown? Not a whole hell of a lot, to be honest. There. I could add 4 more bucks to it, which would make it 12.16 divided by 5. Should be $5. You know, that's not bad money. Yeah, I think I want to go in on it, even though it helps the second player as well. Seems like the best move I can make, I think. The other players had enough money to even buy those 12-buck browns, so they just operated their own companies, pretty much running them as far as they could. Yellow was, yellow did as well, unable to get into Kansas City with its big 12 entry cost. Red is the only one that didn't spend all of its money, more or less, and that's because we got to shoot across this way. There aren't a lot of extra cubes. Someone like yellow has 6 cubes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm not going to be able to, you know, do much tricky stuff after the beginning until I get my next 10 cubes. And that next 10 cubes has to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Has to take me across. So basically, you have to almost figure out your entire route at the beginning of the game. That's a serious front-loading decision making there, where there's not a lot of interference, except in terms of people being able to buy your shares and throw money at you, and there's not a lot of ability to change your plans or anything once you're there. And if somebody else does buy your shares, they could end up screwing your company by running it someplace you didn't want to go. Now that's kind of bad because they've invested money to do that. So chances are they're not going to take you off the route you planned, at least if you point out to them that, yeah, we're screwed if you do that. Screwed up with the Brown Valley. Paying attention to the price down here and ignoring that its income has to count in. And that screws up all the valuations that were made from that, because that made $6 more than it should have. Should be at 12. I'm going to have to unwind this. Both of these players lose some money, and him all the money that came from it. And Brown Valley isn't going to get as much track, and it's not going to have the excess money kicking on it. And it's not going to have the same money here. The value of that brown stock wouldn't be 12, it would have been 24, and the 15 couldn't have bought that. These keeps coming back. We've reassessed the money, both players have lost some. I've got to decide on the player order for this next turn. And we're over here. Any real reason I want to go first? I don't have enough money to start a company that's of any worth. Especially since the good locations are kind of taken, you know. And I don't have enough money to invest in anything because only that first share is really a big deal. That's the only one that's really worthwhile. Now, do I want to invest in something that's not of worth? Same question I was given last time. Probably not. So I think I'm going to keep going sixth and hope that there's some opportunity, you know, some turn where I really want to go first. Order remains unchanged. This was the only guy who had any real thought about it. Sitting on enough money not to buy anything, but maybe to start something that would work with Great Green. But you know what? Nobody else has got the money. If they want to jump in and crash the Great Green, let them use their money for that, you know? If they want to strip away whatever advantage, because then this money will eventually, I hope, allow me to buy a second share of something, although I'm not sure, because the money's accumulating more slowly than maybe the prices are rising. I mean, I'm only getting my share of this, which is 24 divided by 6. I'm getting $4 around from that. Then how come I have more money? That's a good question. I probably cheated. That would be my guess. Although I'm not sure at what point. But yeah, he should not be making more than $4 a share. Did I take his money away? I don't know. But honestly, you know, at $4 a round, I'm never going to catch up to what these companies can make, which kind of means, yeah, there's no way you can kind of do this on your own across the board. These shares aren't going to sell, the extra shares, but they are going to generate extra cash for the companies. And maybe you can buy into crappy companies and help those along if your company is managed well. That's all I can see that can be done. Now, I'm really not sure why he's got so much cash, so I'm going to take some of this money away. Be at all surprised if, this being a winsome game, if it was absolutely necessary that you collude with one another in order to, you know, have a viable company. What I find, and maybe I'll replay if that appears to be the case, like many games that I see though, if there's something like that that's just key to the game, I think it should be hinted at somewhere. If not in the rules, I don't know. I'm not seeing any indication of it in the comments and anything that that's the case. So I'm also afraid that maybe I'm just not understanding, you know, maybe there's something in the rules that I'm completely misplaying. Don't know. So blue is sneaking up here for the high value of Fargo. And we got nice income coming in, right? Of course, that's not all going into anybody's pocket. It's mainly going into the company. But it looks like a viable company. Whether or not anybody can ever invest in it, I doubt it. Brown shot back down to the red line, which looks pretty good, actually. And I don't know, 3, 6, 7, 8 more spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, I won't be able to make it across the border. But this is just generating the income, as far as I'm concerned. It's not going to ever make it done. And I want to expand it so that it makes me more income, so it becomes more valuable. If people want to throw money in, that gets it more income. But red is interesting. Red has 4 pieces left. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, do I want to go here and pay the extra money for this and this? What other options do I have? Will I ever be able to cross this shit? God. Holy crap. The center, nice and rich here, gets pretty crappy as you try to cross. Now, there's a pass here. And unless I come down across, this is kind of one of the cheaper ways through, which looks appealing. And I mean, going to Casper for 20, that's not something you go out of your way to do. So I think I'm going to try to hit North Platte and Cheyenne, and probably the best way is straight across. There isn't a lot of time here. Even though I'm short on cash, that's the problem. Like, I would rather slip down, but I'm only saving, I'm not even saving anything. Nah, all right. I got in that problem with one of the other games. I don't remember if it was Steam or Chicago Express. But anyway, I'm going to spend 4, 8, 12, 20 bucks for these 4 pips. I got the cash. And now I get 10 more pieces for crossing in. Seem to have mushed things together. 4, 7, 8, 9, 10. Great. Okay. So I spent my 20 bucks for these. Let me just play these. Ooh, this is good price. 3, 6, 12, 14 for red. We'll take that. 30, 41. We're getting, up into the good value. And now I still have another 19 bucks, which can get me to Cheyenne. And then I can, I guess, jag and then across. So 15, 16 bucks. Will get me 2 more pips into Cheyenne, and that's worth 8 more bucks, putting me up to 49. And we stop there because we've made, our run across. Red looks like it's going to make it, Is anybody going to have the cash to buy a red? No, like blue, again, it's worth 50, 81 bucks. People, even if you're making off that 49, well, there are 7 shares of it. So they're making 7 bucks off of it. I'd get 35 bucks, over the course of the game off this. I'm not going to get anything from it except the ability to run it, which to me means the cash you get is not really for investment in the big lines. Now, maybe those big lines had to start lower and there had to be more collusion. Wasn't what I was thinking. I should have known better, being winsome, that it wouldn't be obvious, the way to win, but the first time playing, you don't really see what you have to do. You see a way to make it by building your pathway. Spent all their money to make it to Lubbock, and that freed up, they have 10 spaces. What I do from there is hard to tell. I only have 10 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Looks like I pretty much have to blast my way straight through if I want to go for a victory in that way. If I want to try to make income, maybe there are other things to do, but LA, man. And again, nobody can afford any stocks here. The cheapest thing is 12, 28 bucks. Nobody's that low. People could start the green company. It doesn't feel like you could really get it floated unless multiple people work on it. right? Which could happen, but it's just a matter of it's not going to be able to run very far, and it's not going to make you much money over the course of the game, which means you're putting too much in for what you're going to get out of it. There's just not the big kick. There's not the big jump start that even Brown was able to make, where it became valuable to buy a share. We have purple followed black's line, a little bit more cash on hand, so they pushed a little further. They're in basically the same position. They're running the same track. So they've got to blast through all this, whatever it costs. It's what it is. Don't have the money to do it, but pink doing something kind of interesting. They're able to, because they're a little shorter than yellow's line, they're able to slim down here. Now they're not making as much as yellow yet, which probably means they were not as efficient a choice. But they're going to slip down here and then cut across here. And maybe they can do this, but I don't think so. 1, 2, 3, 4 to here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Nope. Then I have to blast through wherever I went through. I mean, I'm only going to have 10 pieces. I got to make it through. And whatever track you select, I mean, I guess you could not try to optimize the eastern track, and then you have a few more pieces so you could kind of not pay the stupid costs through the west or the central. But and now we got to figure out the incomes, and everybody's only got one of each rail, so it should be pretty easy. No desire to switch turn order. Again, this guy's got $25. He's thinking, well, you know, I might want to start green. I can run along the red line, and it's a pretty good line. I may not make it as far as I would otherwise, but at least I can start the company with decent money. But I don't know if it's worth jumping to first place. If somebody else wants to do it, what will they be getting? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They'll only be getting to here. Yeah. Let's roll a die for this. Because the other option, though, is that Brown is at 1628 right now. But if I let this guy go, Brown will get higher. But I don't have the cash to buy it yet. I will maybe next turn if Brown doesn't grow by much. I don't have as much money as some of these other lines do. Although I have no idea how they're going to hit things like $60. And he really needs it, doesn't he? He has 3, 6, 8 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, he's got space to go up here and slip through, which looks like the cheapest route through in his general location. But yeah. This is a really, really tough mathematical exercise so far. And beyond that, I don't feel like I feel like I'm completely misplaying the game with the fact that everybody's got one company, which if that's not the case, then this game is really dull. If that's the case, though, then if people are supposed to set the prices to a level where they can invest more, or work together on a company, I think is more the thing, because you really don't want to set those prices lower, even if there's a lot of shares involved. You want to make sure the company's getting enough cash. The problem here is I don't have the cash to blast through. That's the worry constantly, in the amount of time that the game has to last. All right, let's make a check for the black. Yeah, you know what? He's going to grab the number 1 space, which means we will grab the 3 space because we're pretty sure we're not going to get any special opportunities here. The one exception would be, hey, if I have enough money to buy something, I want to make sure I go ahead of whoever's going to run that company because I don't want them to make it more expensive. But nobody's in that position yet. He comes the closest with the 28 that Brown could afford. But for the most part, it looks really unlikely to be able to come up with the kind of income that'll let you buy into these companies as they expand. I see where I'm screwing up. The value of the shares is not the railroad income coming in. It's the income that the dividend would be at that moment. So, and I'm going to have to restart. Taking one of these shares, so let's take the brown share. It's worth 16 divided by 5 would be $4 a share. Its total value is only $16, which is a lot more sensible. Oops. Yeah, this did not work for obvious reasons. Now, that means you're going to have to be doing a lot of calculations in your head continuously to find the values. I mean, I found it hard enough to compare this value and that value to come up, add them together and come up with what my total is. Yeah, it's not that easy. I'm not adding this and this. I'm adding this and a proportion of this based on the number of shares there are. So I'm doing a lot of trivial calculations to constantly figure out, can I buy that? Can I buy anything? What's up? This was interesting though. It let me see some of the pathways, etc., that I got to, examine some of the values on the track, and it may inform my next play a little bit better. But I'm going to load this defective version up, and because it is unimportant, but it does help show, some of what I'll have learned by the time I play the next game of this. Painful. Well, nobody ever said I was good at comprehending what the rules actually mean. And yeah, send it up.